Okay, everyone. Hi, how is everyone doing? Right, I know this is last minute that I literally decided to go live. Okay, sorry about that. Let me just mute the site. Okay, as you come in, leave a like. I want to tell everyone hi. Someone left me a comment telling me that it's a real put off that I wait 5 minutes for people to come in, go somewhere else. I don't care. Okay. If 5 minutes bothers you, maybe you shouldn't be here. Okay. I'm not changing the way I do things for one person. Forget it. This is a very important message. And I want people to, and I want when I convey this message, I want people to understand that what we're doing is I'm educating you on the crafty counsel that they're plotting and they have plotted. And it's not just Africa and the Caribbean and the Middle East they're doing this to. It is Europe and America as well, right? So, you know how we do here. I give people time to come in, okay? We're not talking about TIs today, but thank you and welcome. Thank you for being here and welcome. But it's very important that I share this message today. It's two messages. It's not going to be a long live, but I want everyone to promise me that they're going to share this video. It's not going to be long, but it's very important to understand what is really taking place. Okay? So I'll give everyone a couple of minutes to come in. I'm not going to take that long, but I want everyone to come in. I'm not going to stay long on the line, but I want everyone to come in. So I'll give you like 3 minutes. So you come in. Okay, I'm going to mute. I'm here. We have 3 minutes for everyone to come. Okay, guys, wonderful. I know that wasn't 3 minutes, but we're close enough. All right, so everyone who's here, let me just do a quick roll call. We got Connor, we got Unika, we got Chanelli, Pumpkin, Melissa, Linda, Julia, Quest for Truth. Thank you. And we know I get censored, yada, yada, yada. I really don't care. But I need everyone to promise me something that they're going to share this video with at least one person. Promise me that you're going to share this video with at least one person because it's important. Okay. Today, we're not talking about migrant crisis as it affects Europe, but I'm going to partially speak about how it is affecting them. Okay. Now, what I want you guys to understand before we get started, we're going to talk about two topics. One is spiritual and one is physical. One is a spiritual topic and one is physical. We're going to start with the physical first. In order to understand the New World Order, and I have interviewed multiple victims of MK Ultra, satanic MK Ultra, done by very powerful people. So I believe I am somewhat of an authority to speak on where things are heading. Okay. Not only that, any person who truly studies slavery of Black people in particular, which was chattel slavery, slavery of the Irish in particular, will understand, or they would come to one conclusion, because the Irish were chattel slaves as well. They just weren't as bad as Blacks and the Native Americans. They were chattel slaves as well. Okay, so anyone studying chattel slavery, you cannot help but come to the conclusion that the system of slavery, of chattel slavery, was MK Ultra. Talking about two topics today. MK Ultra. MK Ultra, that was created by the rulers, that is the merchant class, that is the people that control the economy, your bankers, your merchants, the political class, and the government at the time, which was royalty, foisted a horrific type of slavery onto people. But when you break down the system of slavery, you cannot separate chattel slavery from MK Ultra, because it was. Okay? And here we are in 2023, where we're dealing with something called open borders. Okay? But before we start on the open borders, I want to build up somewhere, because I want you to understand that the New World Order is predicated and built upon what these families learned from enslavement of Black people and the enslavement of the Irish. Okay? I'm being very serious. Okay? Now, before we go there, we're going to talk about, I want to talk about the creation of gangs. Now, all throughout history, there have always been gangs. But gangs throughout history were always created from outcasts from the bottom up. In the 90s in the United States, we saw something a little bit different. We saw gang culture created by Hollywood. Now, the reason why Hollywood would be interested in gang culture is because the very same people who control Hollywood were the very same people running the human trafficking, slave trade, and alcohol trade for the gangs in New York and for the gangs in Chicago. And I'm not speaking about the Italian mafia. It was not the Italian mafia that ran the gangs in Chicago, contrary to what you have been told. It was, in fact, Jewish gangs. Okay? That ran the drug trade, the liquor trade, and the sex trade out of Chicago and out of New York. Okay? Now, in the 90s, we saw something very peculiar foisted upon the Black community. And I have to just wake Black people up in a way that will make sense to them. And I keep saying, Black people, why is it everything they sell you on television, why do you always accept? Why can't you collectively reject these people's bullshit. But let me continue. So in the 90s, we saw something peculiar. Hollywood created the ghetto gang culture. It was created by Hollywood. Not only did they create it and they also created the Mossad with the tall white Israeli. It was created by Jews. And they also created not just the gang culture, they also created rap music. I did not say hip hop. I said rap music was created by Hollywood. Hollywood was created by Jews. Originally, it was run by Christians, and then it was taken over by Jewish crime families out of Chicago. In fact, I actually know someone, I can't say that online, but anyway. So listen carefully because you can't miss this. This is important. In the 90s. Now, I remember growing up Black, and all of you here, most of you here are Black. Most of you know, stick to the topic, please. Most of you know, because this is very important. When we were growing up Black, and I know there are probably white people here, but we're just talking about Black culture when we were growing up. When we were growing up, you could leave the doors open at night. Press 1 in Black neighborhoods. Press 1 if I'm telling the truth. It's very important. Thank you, Onika. I'll press 1 for me. And I want everyone to stick to the topic. Please do not veer from the topic because I'll put you in timeout. Stick to the topic. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Linda. Okay. Thank you, Chanelli. Okay. What does that tell you? It tells you that Black neighborhoods when we were growing up was very safe. Okay. What was foisted upon the Black community, and I remember very clearly, and I'm going to show you what I'm trying to tell you, what they're planning to do. This is why I need you to share this video, and I'm not going to take long, maximum 20, 30 minutes, because I want people to be able to digest the video. When we were growing up in the Black community and we were Black, it was safe. Children used to be outside, riding their bike, playing. No one would kidnap them. No one would bring them into a gang. No one would try to rape them. No one would try to kill them, murder them, etc. The Black communities were very safe when we were growing up. Okay? Then came the 90s, and Hollywood, not Black Americans, Hollywood created gangster rap. There were two things Hollywood created. They created gangster rap, and then they created ghetto white trash for white people. The US Congress allowed them to push, because I remember those congressional hearings. The US Congress allowed them to push the gang culture, but there was heavy, heavy, heavy resistance to the white trash culture. There was heavy resistance. How many people remember Jerry Seinfeld? And they kept bringing Jerry Seinfeld, who was a Jew, to Congress because he kept showing white people as trash. Okay? So the whites were hit with white trash and the Blacks were hit with rap. The US Congress allowed them with the rap, even though there was some resistance when they were singing about killing police, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with killing anyone. But I do agree with absolute free speech. Okay? Now, I want to tell you what I saw with my own eyes. And I'm going to fast forward it to 2024, to their diabolical plot. But I was growing up, and they first brought in rap music and dance hall music from Jamaica, which was very similar with bad man culture. The government of Trinidad said, no, this is a weapon against Black people. And many governments in the Caribbean said, no, we don't want this here. And I remember them saying, these are weapons to destroy the Black community. Okay? Listen carefully. I remember the government and all the people in power and all the parents and all the adults saying, we don't want that music here. We don't want the dancehall music with the violence. And we don't want the rap music, because they said this is not Black music and these are weapons that's going to destroy the Black community. There was a lot of pressure, I remember, put on these governments for freedom of speech. Funny, freedom of speech can be shoot you, you're a bitch, you're a hoe, you're a whatever. But if you're speaking the truth about vaccines, you get banned. But you have the freedom of speech to call a woman a hoe and a man a dick or a man an N-word. You have the freedom of speech to call a woman a bitch. But if you speak about vaccines, if you speak about Jews, you automatically don't have freedom of speech. Isn't that some really interesting freedom of speech? But let's stick to the topic. So there was severe resistance against dancehall, Jamaican dancehall music, which was extremely violent, which was tied to gangster rap music, which was created by the Tavistock Institute and created by the satanic psychiatrist programmers in Hollywood. Okay, there was resistance to it. Now, watch this. When the US government allowed rap music to be pumped to Black American children, it was not just changing and destroying Black American children. Black children in America, boys in particular, Black boys in the Caribbean, Black and brown boys in Latin America were affected. And to a lesser degree, Blacks in Africa, to a lesser degree, Blacks in Africa. Then we saw from this demonic music that was created by Jews in Hollywood, we saw and we watched the Black community literally collapse under the weight of this musical MK Ultra. I'm going somewhere with this because it's all MK Ultra. And Black people do not study MK Ultra that comes through music and comes through movies. If you find yourself dressing like the people on television, you are mind controlled. If you find yourself speaking and acting like the people on television, you are under mind control. If you find yourself repeating what they're saying, you are under mind control. And to a greater extent, those in social media and alternative media, because that is where they are now doing their MK Ultra. If you are not thinking for yourself, you are under mind control. But let's continue. So it was not just young Black American boys who ended up in the prison system in droves and were later called criminals and violent. And Hollywood and the music industry, both run by Jews, never was charged for this. And they took, just like Satanists, they took no responsibility for the destructive music that they were allowed to perpetuate on Blacks in America, Blacks in the Caribbean, Blacks and brown people in Latin America. Now, let me show you what they did. When the experiment was over, when the experiment was coming to an end, meaning they got the black boys to change their culture. Instead of going to school or learning a trade, they got them funneled into the prison using music and a subset of black culture. I am not saying there weren't gang members. There were, but before the 90s, they were a small subset. They were not the culture. Stick to the topic, Melissa. Thank you. So, after that, after the 90s and the 2000s, that violent music became associated with black people, but it wasn't just blacks in America. Let me tell you what they did. When they got enough young black boys into the prison system, do you want to know what they did? Those who were not born in the United States, they started mass deportation. And I was there to see the ramifications of the deportation. When they deported these people that they programmed using sophisticated MK Ultra harmonic mind control, that's what it's called. And like true Satanists, they always say, we're not responsible. No, you are. It's just that the people are ignorant. We began to see the Caribbean, Haiti, Trinidad, Jamaica, Guyana, to lesser extent Barbados, collapse under gang violence. From the 90s to today, we know for a fact, at least in all those islands, about maybe 500,000 to 1 million young boys were killed for gang warfare. Not only did they reprogram their brains to be associated with gangs, they did something else on top of that. They funneled in the guns. It's a very sophisticated mind control. And then when they funneled the guns, they created not just the harmonic mind control through the music, but they began to create the movies that perpetuated a criminal culture. So we went from harmonic mind control from the movies, from the music to the movies. They did the same thing here. African Americans need to wake up and realize the 90s to 2000s was mind control to turn to mass murder and genocide young black men, and they're at it again. But I'm going to show you how they're doing it today. Now notice, stick a pin in what I said. Deportation. When the experiment was over, they scattered the young black men back to their countries after they had them in jail. Now remember, we interviewed Big Ace, who told us what they were doing to them in jail, which is testing weapons on them, microchipping them, and tracking their behavior 24/7. So we know everyone who was deported in the 90s and in the 2000s from a US jail is microchipped, and there are weapons on them. But that's the 90s. They were then sent, the Black Americans were sent back into their communities to destroy it. And then the media would be there to get a 6 o'clock story. And then the music industry, run by the tall Israeli Jew, said, this is what he said, this is his words. I have to feed my family. I don't care what happens to black people. I got to feed my family. That is what the tall Israeli Jew said. The information coming out now about Puffy and this other music bigwig, was that they were given mind control techniques to turn young Black boys into criminals. Their job was to turn young Black boys into criminals using sophisticated psychological satanic mind control techniques. These techniques were created by Colonel Michael Aquino. Colonel Michael Aquino. Okay? Okay, let's fast forward. Now, that was what they did in the 90s. Let us get to the rape gangs in Europe. What they did was they went into, their soldiers went into, and I'm not blaming the soldiers, because the soldiers are under mind control and the public is under mind control. But I want to show you what they did, why we must wake up to these mind control tactics and stop being naive, because they're at it again. What they did simultaneously in the 90s and in the 2000s, they earmarked Black men for destruction. I showed you one of the ways in which they earmarked Black men for destruction. Simultaneously, Black men and Latino men, I'm sorry. Simultaneously, they earmarked Muslims for destruction. And the way in which they earmarked Muslims for destruction was through the wars in Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Iraq, twice, etc., Syria, etc., etc. One of the things they did, listen carefully, is that they kidnapped a lot of innocent young men who were Muslims from the Middle East and Muslims from the Muslim countries in the Sahel and north of the Sahel. Listen carefully. They kidnapped these young men, and what they did is they took them to torture sites. Listen carefully. And at these torture sites, they would brainwash them and they would rape them violently and they would torture them. Okay? When they were done, some they would kill. And watch this. Many they would send after they bombed the countries. They would open the border. An open border policy is a wealthy Jewish policy. Okay? The Jew who is responsible for open borders in Europe is a woman. And the male Jew who's responsible for open border in the United States and Europe and Canada is George Soros. Open border policy is a Jewish policy. Nobody else. You can look this up. I can show you. It is not anti-Semitism. It is a fact. George Soros, a male Jew, funds open borders. And then the female Jew in Europe was the one who funded an open border policy, but it's deeper than an open border policy. When they were done bombing these Muslim countries and kidnapping these Muslim men and raping the Muslim men and sexually humiliating them, they would create refugees. They would create refugees. The group that is behind asylum seekers and refugees, the main group that is tied to open border are Jewish organizations. The majority of them are Jewish organizations. Okay? Pay attention. Pay attention. One of the organizations is called HIAS, HIAS. HIAS. And let me give you guys this link in case they take down this video. You can watch this video on Rumble. HIAS is the main Jewish organization in the United States that is responsible for the 20 to 30 million refugees and asylum seekers coming to the United States. In Europe, it's European NGOs that's responsible for bringing in people from the Middle East and people from Africa. Okay? Now, why is that important? Listen carefully. When they destabilize these countries, listen carefully, and they rape the men, and they MK Ultra the men, they rape the Muslim men. The Muslim men will never tell you they've been raped. They'll never tell you that. Ever. When they rape the men, they send the men along with the people fleeing the war they just started. So the mass migration of people after they bomb a Middle East country, when they run into Europe, the men that they kidnapped and raped, they send them with them, the same group. When they get to Europe, these men are now homosexualized because of ritual rape. These men are now psychosexualized. And I want to introduce you to the person who stated they were going to create the New World Order must be predicated upon a psychosexualized civilization. Okay? Let me show you. Let me show you. This is why it's imperative that you understand mind control. His name, he's a Jew. His name is Magnus Hirschfeld. If you want to understand the perversions today, if you want to understand the rape gangs in Europe today, if you want to understand the tranny invasion, cutting off of genitalia, raping children, this is not about gay people. Let me define something. This is not about gay adults. Grown men want that. No. This is about perversion. It came from this Jewish man. Okay? All of it came from this Jewish man who wanted to create a society, what he called a psycho-civilized society, a psychosexual society, where it was okay, an open society where it was okay to rape children. Okay, his name was Magnus Hirschfeld. I'm not going to bore you with the kinds of things that he was involved in. But one of the main things that he was involved in and what he pushed was raping children. If you want to understand the New World Order, you cannot separate the New World Order from raping children. They cannot be separated. It is one and the same. And the psychology behind baby raping was built upon this child rapist studies. This baby raper. Okay? Now let's get to Europe and the rape gangs in Europe. Now, Muslim men are not going to come out and tell you they were raped. They were psychosexualized. They're not going to tell you. But Europe is suffering an endemic of rape against European women. And how is that possible? Is it because Muslims are rapists? No, that's like saying all whites were rapists during the time of slavery. They weren't all rapists during the times of slavery. Okay? So no, calling all 1.2 billion Muslims rapists is the same as saying all however many million white people are slave driving rapists. It's bullshit. But what occurred was a lot of the men who are acting out today were kidnapped when their countries were bombed. They were raped. Their minds were erased. And then they were put on boats and planes headed to Europe as asylum seekers. And now Europe has an explosion of rape. Okay? Think about it. So now we get to the open border. The majority of people coming across the open border in Europe and in the United States are Black people and Latinos. We are getting word that there are baby concentration camps of Blacks, Black African children on the border. The baby raping concentration camps of Black children at the border, this is what they're doing to them. They are psychosexualizing the boys, according to Hirschfeld, psychosexualized society, which was sexual depraved filth. And it is MK Ultra. It is the radical Jewish MK Ultra. Let me say it again. It is radical because even Jewish boys, when they're 3 days old, are psychosexualized. When their penises are cut and the rabbis suck their penises. That is MK Ultra done to Jewish boys. And that, what they're doing at the border today, run by Jews, all stems from Magnus Hirschfeld's psychosexual civilized society, which is nothing but sexual depravity. Now let me show you where the MK Ultra comes in and why we have to wake up and realize that this is a crafty council. This is crafty counsel to destroy Africa, the Caribbean, and Latin America. Let me continue. On the border, the baby rapers have baby concentration camps of Black children and Latino children. In the baby raping concentration camps on the US border, the little African boys and the little Latino boys are being mind controlled to believe they're girls. Listen carefully. They are psychosexualizing the boys to be girls. This is what they are doing in the baby raping concentration camps on the border. The girls, they are psychosexualizing the Latino girls and psychosexualizing the Black girls to be boys, causing mental illness, causing mental illness. I said the US border. Okay? Once you confuse a child, go back to a psychosexualized society from this baby raper, Magnus Hirschfeld. Once you can confuse a child sexually, let me tell you what the goal is. Once there is gender and identity confusion, now it makes it easy for the child to be what? Can anyone guess? Once you confuse them and tell them that is not a penis, what you have is a vagina. That's not a vagina. What you have is a penis. Okay, you're going to cut off your penis and glue it onto her vagina, and cut off her vagina and glue it onto his penis. Whatever. What do you think happens when that is done to a child? They are priming, grooming the child for what? What's the next stage? What's the next stage? I want you to see the weapon they're planning against the Caribbean, Latin America, and Africa. See the weapon being formed. Okay? When you confuse a child's sexual identity, when you introduce sex to a child, and you continually program the child to see themselves as sexual, what's coming next? Then it goes from mind control to what? To sexual abuse. To sexual abuse. So first you got to change the way they think so that they can think the way you want them to think. Once you see that they start to take the programming, then you move to phase 2, which is what? You get the boys out of skirts to the boys naked. Then you rape the child. What do you think is going on that border? Baby raping factories. But I want to tell you the insidious part. So the baby raping factories is phase 1. Baby grooming factory is part 1. Baby raping factories is part 2. The third part that I want you to catch. Remember what was done in slavery. What did they do in slavery? In order for them to lay the MK Ultra, you have to take the subject out of their environment. You have to keep the subject out of their environment. After you remove them from a safe environment, the second thing you do is you reprogram them, then test them. Reprogram and test. That is what's at the US border. They're reprogramming Black children. They're reprogramming Latino children. Then they test them. The third phase is that to see whether or not they take the programming. If they take the programming and are comfortable in boys wearing dresses and girls acting like boys, then you rape them. Then you sell them. Okay? But there's a fourth phase in the MK Ultra that I need you to see. What did we learn about after they foisted upon the Black boys in America? Gangster rap. After Hollywood and Tavistock Institute created gangster rap. What did they do? After they saw that the programming took and they were funneling these boys into the prison system, microchipping them, and then using weapons on them. What did we learn? What did they do? They started mass deportation. Well, let's get to the Arab world. What did they do after they bombed these Arab countries and kidnapped the men and torture them? What did they do? They started what was called migrants, getting them out of their countries. And then they released them. Bingo, Linda! Push them out into the public. Now watch this. When the gang programming was laid on the young black boys, and then they funneled them into the prison, and then they tested weapons on them, and then they tested drugs on them, and then they microchipped them, then they released them from the prison to do what? Destroy the black community. Do you see it? Do you see it? Those who were not black Americans, black, but they were black from Latin America or black from the Caribbean or brown or whatever. When they released them from the prison, what did they do to them? After they microchipped them in the prison, after they tested weapons on them, after they injected them with God knows what, they deported them. You cannot miss this. When they deported them, what started to happen in Latin America? An explosion of gang warfare. Something that was not seen before. What started happening in the black community? An explosion of gang warfare. What started happening in the Caribbean? An explosion of gang warfare. Let's go to the Middle East. When they bombed the Middle East, when they kidnapped the men and raped them, and then released them with the fleeing asylum seekers, what did we see? We see something that is novel to the Middle East. What did we start seeing? They started saying, we have terrorism, and then we have what? Rape. Now let's get to what they're planning today. For the past 10 years, the US government and the European Union have been trying to get the Middle East to turn gay, Africa to turn gay, the Caribbean to turn gay, and Latin America. And when I say gay, let me backtrack. Because we've always had homosexuals. I'm not talking about homosexuals. I am talking about sexual deviancy under the Fourth Reich, which is run by Nazi Jews. Big difference. Big difference. I am talking not about adults being gay. I am talking about a Nazi agenda by Fourth Reich Nazi child raping Jews. Big difference. And non-Jews. Okay? Now, they're going to take down this video, but I don't give a damn. I gave you the link. Download that link and watch the rest of the video and share the video from Rumble. I don't care because Africa needs to wake up. Now listen carefully. Listen carefully. They are plotting again. I'm going to show you how they're going to do it. Caribbean, you better wake up. Latin America, you better wake up. Africa, you better wake up. Listen carefully. They have concentration camps and baby raping brothels all over the United States. Trump's job when he comes in is to, guess what he's supposed to do? What is Trump's job to do when he comes in with the migrants? The job is bring them in under the Democrats, install the microchips in their bodies, install the weapons and the tracking systems, all of which are controlled by Israel, God's chosen race. Okay? I'm not talking to you like I don't know what I know. I know what I'm telling you. Okay? The tracking systems are controlled by God's chosen people. When I say God, I mean Lucifer. Not my God, their God. Their God is the devil. We know this. The weapons go with the tracking systems. Listen carefully. When they are done psychosexualizing the children who survive, because most of them are going to be killed and eaten and turned into sausage. That's another thing you migrants need to know. That's why I keep telling you, go home. You don't know how wicked this country is. And you don't know the extent of how wicked the government of this country is. Go home. Let me continue. When they are finished psychosexualizing these African children, turning the boys to girls and the girls to boys, raping them, Trump's job when he comes in is to do what? What is Trump's job to do with the migrants? I'll wait. When Trump, no one can figure this out. No one can figure this out. They're already microchipped. When Trump comes in, oops, mass deportation. Okay, class, start thinking. Now, if you rape them in America, if you gender confuse them in America, if you tell the boy with a penis, you're a girl, then you rape them. If you tell the girl with a vagina, you're a boy, and you rape them, and then you deport them by the millions. After you microchip them, what are you deporting back to Africa, back to the Caribbean, back to Latin America? Are you deporting humans or are you deporting weapons? I'm asking you. I'll wait for your answer. Hive-minded weapons. Okay, if you implant the migrants with chips, if you raise them in concentration camps on the border, if you rape them continually, okay, while you have them in concentration camps, installing weapons in their minds, and then you bring in Granddaddy Trump to deport them, what kind of weapons? Listen carefully to the question. What kind of weapons are you deporting to Africa, the Caribbean, and Latin America? Are you deporting guns to Latin America? Or are you deporting psychosexual deviants to destroy the conservative values of people in the Caribbean, Latin America, and Africa, which is a stronghold of religion. What kind of weapons are you deporting? What kind of weapons? Is it weapons like bombs? Is it weapons like guns? Or is it ideological weapons? Remember, Latin America is very Catholic. The Caribbean is very religious. And Africa is the most religious of them all. If you have baby raping farms on the US border, baby raping the children by the tens of thousands, microchipping them, hitting them with weapons, changing the way they think. You're deporting Sodom and Gomorrah. Now let me ask you, can any society survive mass immigration of Sodom and Gomorrah? I am not talking about gays. I am talking about satanic, Luciferian, ritualistic, sexual deviancy. Big difference. I am not talking about gays. This is a different level. Can a conservative society like the Caribbean, can conservative societies like Latin America, can ultra-conservative societies like Africa survive ideological, thank you, Patrick, they're exporting sexual super soldiers. Everyone say it with me. Trump's job is to deport the sexual super soldiers to destroy Latin America, destroy the Caribbean, and utterly destroy Africa. Is anyone on earth today? The Democrats' job is to bring them in and change the way they think. The Republicans' job, after the programming has been installed, is to release them back on the Black community and then scatter them to the four winds, back to their countries. And then they destroy the country and change the society. Do you see the weapon in the Caribbean? Do you see the weapon in Latin America? Do you see the weapon in Africa? And African Americans and Latinos in America and Blacks in America, do you see the weapons they're going to be bringing in your community? Let me tell you a story before I switch the topic. I interviewed two people. One grew up in a satanic Jewish family. And one of the main things that they did to program this person was Magnus Hirschfeld, this Jew, his work, which was sexual violence, sex and violence combined. The other person I interviewed, he was Black. He was adopted by a Nazi British family. And the main way in which they installed the programming when they used him as an MK Ultra soldier was to imprison him in a cage, just like they have the children on the border, and rape him daily, just like the Black children and the Latino children on the border. Celia, that's why I'm making this video, because the governments are clueless. Okay? Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa have been fighting the US and European Union left and right from trying to turn their culture into pedophile cultures. They have been fighting, and resisting the United States and Europe from turning their culture into a pedophile culture. This is the secret weapon in which the United States, run by Jews, and I'm talking about rich, sick, rapist Jews like Jeffrey Epstein, who's still alive at the border, and the rich banking Jews who are child rapists and baby murderers of Europe. And the white, they're not even white because they're lizards, lizard elite of Europe and the United States. Get the message. They're going to take down this video of YouTube because I spoke on YouTube about the baby raping factories run by Jewish organizations on the border. Okay, it's run by Jewish organizations on the border and they're baby raping factories. Okay, so they're going to take down this video. So let me post the Rumble video that you will share everywhere. What you do is, don't be lazy. Download this video and then re-upload it. Download this video and then re-upload it. Download this video and then re-upload it. The second thing I want you to understand, the left wing of the bird, listen carefully. Blacks in America, Blacks in the Caribbean, Blacks in Latin America, Blacks in Africa, and Europe, because Europe is going through hell too. I am not against European people. When they act like racist assholes, then I'm against them. But I'm not against European people if they're normal, decent people, funded by the churches, because the churches are on there on the border as well. It was both the Israeli Mossad under a medical mission and American churches that almost emptied Haiti of 250,000 children. That is how sick these people are, okay? But I got to talk about this. Now, it is important to understand this is what they're doing. It is not the children's fault. When Trump comes in, you got to be smart and you got to be delicate. When America tried to deport the Venezuelans back to Venezuela, the Venezuelan government knew they were weapons. And the Venezuelan government said, nope, we're not taking them. So if the plane came back with those, we already know the American government will just kill them. This is why I'm telling you, migrants, go home. Turn around and leave this wicked country. Go home. Turn around, migrants. Leave Europe. Leave the United States and go home. Because if these countries, listen to me carefully, migrants, when Trump comes in to do mass deportation, and these countries say, we're not taking you back because we know what you're sending. Remember, Trojan horse. This is the type, I'm not screaming at you. Trojan horse. These people play chess while you play checkers. These people play chess while you play checkers. The migrants are a Trojan horse to change conservative regions into pedophile regions. I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you a bit of information. There was a whistleblower from Holland. Okay, listen carefully. He made a video, and for the love of God, I can't find the video. He said, listen. He said they have secretly changed the laws. The Parliament of Holland. Let me lower my voice. I'm not yelling. The Parliament of Holland changed the laws. It is now legal to openly rape children. He said the parents in Holland have no clue. The laws state in Holland, if a parent opposes their child being raped, they will be thrown in jail. This is Magnus Hirschfeld's Psychosexual Society. He made a video warning the world that the Dutch government legalized raping children in every sphere of society. Now, they cannot go into the New World Order with open baby raping because regions like Africa will oppose them. Regions like the Caribbean, they will kill them. And I'm not talking about gay people. I am not talking about gay people. I am not talking about gay adults. That is not who I'm talking about. I am talking about a satanic, Luciferian, baby raping, pedophile, pedistocracy. Okay? It is not Democrat. It is not Republicans. It is a pedocracy, a baby raping death cult. I'm not yelling. I'm not yelling. I'm not yelling. There is no Democrat. There is no Republican. We are ruled by a baby raping death cult. Baby raping, baby murdering death cult. Let me continue. He said, he warned. This is what he said. He said, world, wake up. They are coming to change the laws in your country. He said, in Holland, it is now legal. He said, the people of Holland don't know yet. He said, but it is now legal to openly rape children. And if you oppose it, you, the parent, or you, the opposer, will be thrown in jail. Now, here's the problem. They cannot bring in their New World Order without baby raping. They cannot bring in their New World Order without open baby raping. But they know they will be opposed by Russia, by Africa, by the Caribbean, and by the religious Catholics in Latin America. So they devised a Trojan horse. They devised a Trojan horse. The Trojan horse is called open borders. It's called migrants. It's called asylum seekers. When they come in, they put them in concentration camps away from the public, just like slavery. Just like slavery of blacks. You got to get them away from a known environment, just like slavery of black people. Just like slavery. I always told people, if you want to understand the New World Order, study slavery. Whether you're black, you're white, whatever. Stop feeling offended at slavery and study it. Study it like a manual. If you want to understand the New World Order, you must study slavery. Slavery is MK Ultra of the worst kind. You got to get the subject away from a comfortable environment. You call them asylum seekers. You welcome them in. You separate them from the regular people. Then you begin to lay the programming in them, altering them and changing them. Then you test them to see if they receive the programming. and then you scatter them to the four winds. Trump's job is to scatter them to the four winds. Now, you African countries, you Caribbean countries, you Latin American countries, this is what you need to do. If you take the migrants back, you must isolate them. You must isolate them, and you must monitor their behavior. I am not joking. Listen, if you think these people, I don't know how Black people think, oh, they gave us diversity, inclusion, and equity. I said, people, D-I-E spells die. Why would you accept anything that's telling you to die? And then you cried when the white governors took it away and said you didn't want equal rights. I said, people, these people spelt it D-I-E. D-I-E spells die. They created a ritual. Let me show you the die ritual. Let me show you the die ritual before D-I-E. When they wanted to kill Princess Diana, they stopped calling her Princess Diana and they started calling her Princess Die, 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 Die. They had the whole, I never call her Die. I said, I'm not stupid. You're creating cymatics to kill this woman before her time. Diversity, inclusion, and equity spells die, and it's geared towards what they call minorities. When you read Magnus Hirschfeld, I'm not yelling. When you read Magnus Hirschfeld was an advocate for sexual minorities. You know who sexual minorities? Diversity, inclusion, and equity. Die. They're telling you they're gonna kill you, not include you. Diversity, inclusion, and equity is to kill you, not make you equal. Anyway, the point is this: Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. For the past 10 to 12 years, they have been trying their God best to turn you into pedophile societies. And I'm not saying there's no sexual molestation in societies. No, you're not pedophile enough. Okay? And they've been failing because Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa keep saying, hell no. I am not saying gay people. I am not talking about gay people. I am talking about satanic Luciferian rapists. Okay? And I don't want to hear religious people say gay people are pedophiles. I'm like, let me tell you something. The majority of gay people were raped by a priest or raped by a pastor. How about we start there? Okay? And when I say that, they all sit down and shut up. Let me continue. So, when Trump comes in, and he's coming in, it's satanic ritual abuse, exactly. And his job is to mass deport these people whose brains have been altered. Okay? Whose brains have been altered. You have to be very intelligent about how you deal with them. Let me tell you what will happen. If the countries reject the migrants and say, we don't want them, America will kill them. That is what America specializes in. If America has to turn those planes around and bring them back to America, this is a country that mass murdered 50 million Native Americans. Okay? America will kill those migrants. That's why I keep telling the migrants, go home! and they will not lose sleep. I keep telling these migrants, go home now. I keep telling these migrants, go home now. If America has to turn those planes back, I can guarantee you, they will kill every last one of them. That's the United States. If you receive them, Africa, Caribbean, and Latin America, listen to me carefully. I didn't say put people in prison and starve them and beat them. That is not the way you treat people. What I am saying is this: don't release them into your public. What I am saying is separate them. Do not mistreat them. Do not starve them. Do not beat them. Do not put violence on them, because it will install the programming even deeper. You treat them like human beings. You show them respect, but you monitor the behavior. Now, the mistake when the United States and the Jews in Hollywood, with the Mossad, the tall Israeli Jew, created rap music, when the US government deported all of the people whose brain they altered with rap music, the mistake you made in Latin America and in the Caribbean and some parts of Africa, the mistake you made was this: you let them back into your regular public. You will not make that mistake again. You will treat them with respect. You will treat them with dignity, but you will not bring them back with the regular public until you see that they are not exhibiting the MK Ultra programming installed in their minds. Be warned, Africa. Be warned, the Caribbean. And be warned, Latin America. Now, to the migrants, I'm going to warn you, go home. This country is way more wicked than you can ever imagine. If Trump gets in there and he deports you, and your home country says, we don't want you, they will mass murder all of you and sleep peacefully at night. Now, I'm almost done, and I'll wrap it up. Let's get to the spider really quickly. I've been tracking this spider. I tracked that spider under Tel Aviv, her homeland. Her mother are the people in that place over there. That's not Palestine. I believe that the entities in the place that is not real, listen carefully. I need to show you a map. You need to see this on a map. You need to see this on a map, okay? Okay. I need you to see this on a map here. And then I'm done. Okay. Oh. All right, there we go. I need to see this really quickly. This is the second message. And I'll be quick and I'm done. Okay. All right. This here is not real. Okay. And this here is Egypt. I tracked the spider in is not real. Hey, Sammy. I tracked the spider in is not real. Now, I believe that is not real wants to push that spider and has pushed that spider. This is a message to Africa. into Egypt, but it's a spider. Okay? It's a spider. I'm talking about underground. I do not believe that spider is going to stay in North Africa, in the North African desert. I believe that spider is going to push down into, I want a good picture. I want to show you something. I want to show you something. I believe that spider is going to push down into the green parts of Africa. Why? You see here, it's going to push down from North Africa, past the Sahel, the Sahara, past the Sahel into greener territories. Why? The greener part of Africa is very dense. There's forest. There's not a lot of technology. If you're pregnant and you're a spider and it's hot and it's dark and there's no technology, you can lay your eggs. Okay, Teresa, tell me. Okay, you can lay your eggs. People, download this video. I believe that they're pushing that spider into Africa so that she has dense tropical forests to lay her eggs. Africa. Many of you are going to say, oh, she's crazy. She's tracking this huge spider and no such thing exists. Okay. Jababi Fofa. Okay. In the Congo, there is a spider that is huge called Jabafofi. Okay. I'm going to say this again for everyone telling me there's no such thing as a giant spider. In the Congo, there is a giant spider called Jabafofi that can take out humans. I'm going to say it again. I'm tracking that spider. And I believe that the is not real pushed that spider into Egypt underground. That spider is heading towards greener pastures. Why do I say this? I say this because Africa, many tribes live deep in the bush. This is why I need you to download this video and share this video, especially with African people. Many Africans live in the bush. And these powers want that continent and want Africans dead. Share this with as many Africans as possible. Why? Because if you share it with them and they share it with them, they are all aware of this giant spider. And don't tell me it doesn't exist, because in Congo, there's a spider called Jabafofi. Okay? This is not a joke. These entities want Africa and want the Africans dead. And they want that really rich region from the Sahel southward for themselves. What better way to do it than to create a catastrophe in that region? So share this with Africans. Here's what you do too. Okay? Okay? So you can go and you can download a video. Get the link, paste the link. Let me show you how you do it. Let's see if you can do it here. Okay? Okay, forget this one. Okay. Okay, you start the download. You download the video. Okay, you save it on your computer and then you upload it. Don't just share, the link. Okay? Or whatever downloader you can find. Okay? I'm done. I said it was going to be 30 minutes. It ended up long. All right, people? Let me stop sharing my screen. Please download the video. Download the video. Don't just share the link. Download the video because they're going to take this down. Download the video and share it. Okay? Thank you, guys. Talk later. Love you and have a wonderful evening.